When you show something from Hindu scriptures to Hindus that doesn't favor them, they will quickly term the verse you posted as fake translation. But Hindus will never apply this logic while mocking other religions by copying from pro-Hindu websites. Whining over so-called fake translation is nothing but an excuse to run away from discussion. Next time you see a Hindu accusing you of using fake translation, it means that they are not able to defend the scriptures and want to escape. Hindus takes immense pride when any white Westerner says something good about Hinduism. But if there is any verse translated by another Westerner Gora, white guy, that doesn't favor Hinduism, then Hindus will start attacking the white translator of being British agent, a Christian missionary whose aim was to malign Hinduism. The purpose of this video is to expose those Hindus who accuse others of using fake translation, and ironically, it's actually them who often distort Hindu scriptures according to their vested interests. So why Hindus still accuse these Western translators of deliberately distorting the meaning of Vedas? That's because these commentaries are outdated, exposes the fallibility of Vedas. They cannot defend the Vedas by twisting as they usually do. They cannot hide the obscenities. They cannot prove science in Vedas using these commentaries because those commentaries confirm the errors mentioned in Vedas. Maybe Ishwar made a huge mistake by inspiring or revealing Vedas in Sanskrit language, which is a dead language. But Swami Dayanand Saraswati has the answer as to why Ishwar revealed it in Sanskrit language. Classical and medieval scholars like Yaska, Sayana, Mahitara, Uvata, etc. couldn't interpret it properly, and only 21st century internet Hindu warriors could translate it correctly. Ishwar should have revealed Vedas in this 21st century to Hindu keyboard warriors, and they would have interpreted its true meaning. Isn't it?
Namaskar. Welcome to Gnani's World.
In Critical Analysis of Vedas, Season 1, Episode 3, we have seen about the eternality of Veda mantras. Now in this Episode 4 of Season 1, let us see about the fake translation saga of Veda mantras. Before we continue, kindly like, share, subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Dear viewers of Gnani's World, before we get into the subject, let us watch a small video clip of Kamakshi Dhanraj.
We need substantial, historically and archaeologically verifiable proofs to accept these ideas as truth. Does Christianity have such proofs? Well, it's time to examine that.
Dear viewers of Gnani's World, for those people who don't know about Kamakshi Dhanraj, she was a Brahmin, introduces herself to the world as an ex-Christian and works for intellectual Kshatriya team of proud American Rajiv Malhotra, who promoted rape-accused Nityananda, and final result everyone knows. In her video clip, she raised some good logical objections to Christians. India is the most ancient culture, birthplace of Dharma, and home to the world's largest collection of philosophical literature. Pastors cannot get away with saying that the Bible is the only true word of God. Well, it is time to examine that. And Gnani's World tried to apply her own logical objection to the Vedas and tried to get the answer for the authenticity of the Vedas. That is, investigating the textual corruption of the Veda mantras and to find the answer why Christian pastors get away with saying that the Bible is the only true word of God. Here we go. When you show something from Hindu scriptures to Hindus that doesn't favor them, they will quickly term the verse you posted as fake translation. And the irony is that the Hindus will accuse you of using fake translation without even verifying what evidence you provided. They will directly come to the conclusion that since you don't like Hinduism and you are a non-Hindu, so whatever evidence you provided must be falsely invented to malign Hinduism. But Hindus will never apply this logic while mocking other religions by copying from pro-Hindu websites. When you ask them to give the authentic translation, they will never provide that. Rather, they will divert the topic. Whining over so-called fake translation is nothing but an excuse to run away from discussion. Next time you see a Hindu accusing you of using fake translation, it means that they are not able to defend the scriptures and want to escape. When discussing Hindu scriptures, Hindus will first ask you to quote verses translated by Hindu scholars only. When you do it, They will say that it is difficult to translate Sanskrit verses into English as Sanskrit words have several meanings. So they will then ask you to mention original Sanskrit text and translate it word by word. Hindus takes immense pride when any white Westerner says something good about Hinduism. But if there is any verse translated by another Westerner Gora, white guy, that doesn't favor Hinduism, then Hindus will start attacking the white translator of being British agent, a Christian missionary whose aim was to malign Hinduism. The most popular Gora, white guy, accused of maligning Hinduism is Max Muller. Swami Vivekananda praised Max Muller and even considered him to be an incarnation of Sayana Acharya, a renowned commentator of Vedas. Dear viewers of Gnani's World, we didn't use Christian missionary translation of Vedas in this video, as you can see in our other videos too. We have used translations by Hindu scholars even when the translations by Indologists were the same as those of Hindu scholars. So we are not using this video as an excuse to use non-Hindu translations. The purpose of this video is to expose those Hindus who accuse others of using fake translation, and ironically, it's actually them who often distort Hindu scriptures according to their vested interest. Second most popular Gora, white guy, accused of maligning Hinduism is Ralph T.H. Griffith. When you quote Griffith's translation, Hindus will quickly call it fake translation. But what Hindus may not be knowing is, Ralph T.H. Griffith's translation is based on commentaries by Hindu scholars like Mahidara, Uvata, even H.H. Wilson's translation is based on Sayana Acharya's commentary. So why Hindus still accuse these Western translators of deliberately distorting the meaning of Vedas? That's because these commentaries are outdated, exposes the fallibility of Vedas. So, to completely reinterpret the Vedas according to their convenience and match it with the modern science, they have no choice except to reject all these commentaries. They cannot defend the Vedas by twisting as they usually do. They cannot hide the obscenities. They cannot prove science in Vedas using these commentaries, because those commentaries confirm the errors mentioned in Vedas. Modern Vedic followers even interpret Vedas contrary to the interpretation given in Nirukta by Yaska Acharya. Sayana was a 14th century scholar, Mahidara was a 16th century scholar, Yaska was a 5th century BC scholar, which means that these scholars may have been so influential and so intellectual of their time that their names and works is still preserved. So do Hindus claim that they know more than these scholars, that they consider these scholars' interpretations as wrong? Hindus also claim that one Sanskrit word has several meanings, hence it cannot be translated into other languages. These are the same Hindus who claim Sanskrit to be the mother of all languages, and also that Sanskrit is the most scientific language used by NASA, of which there is no evidence to prove it. Maybe Ishwar made a huge mistake by inspiring or revealing Vedas in Sanskrit language, which is a dead language. But Swami Dayanand Saraswati has the answer as to why Ishwar revealed it in Sanskrit language in Satyartha Prakash chapter 7 page 237. When question is asked, why did he reveal the Veda in Sanskrit instead of a language of some particular country? Swami Dayanand Saraswati answered this way. Had he revealed the Veda in the language of some particular country, he would have been partial to that country, because it would have been easier for the people of that country to learn and teach the Veda than for the foreigners. Therefore, he did it in Sanskrit that belongs to no country and is the mother of all other languages. Just as he has ordained the material creation such as the earth, etc., which is also the source of all useful arts, for the equal good of all, so should the language of divine revelation be accessible to all countries and nations with the same amount of labor. Hence, the revelation of the Veda in Sanskrit does not make God partial to any nation. By Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Satyartha Prakash, chapter 7, page 237, translated by Chiranjeeva Bharadwaja. Maybe Ishwar wasn't aware of what would happen in the future. Even in ancient India, Sanskrit was not a spoken language and was limited to Brahmins alone, and now it is a dead language and there are not even 10k people worldwide having Sanskrit as their mother tongue. Ask any foreigner about Sanskrit language. If he knows that there exists a language called Sanskrit, then he will tell you that it is the language of Hinduism. And foreigners have to come to India to learn this language. So wasn't Ishwar aware that this language called Sanskrit would be dead and limited to India alone and would become partial to India? Ishwar did a mistake in using Sanskrit language and made much bigger mistake in revealing Vedas a billion years ago, as claimed by Hindus. As people lived on a wrong interpretation of Vedas for a billion years, even classical and medieval scholars like Yaska, Sayana, Mahitara, Uvata, etc. couldn't interpret it properly, and only 21st century internet Hindu warriors could translate it correctly. Ishwar should have revealed Vedas in this 21st century to Hindu keyboard warriors and they would have interpreted its true meaning. Isn't it? Now, let us evaluate some of the translation of Vedic followers. I don't mean entire translation is wrong, but I mean Arya Samajis translate it as per their convenience if they are uncomfortable with the meaning of some verse. They add their own words into the verses. Following verse says, Rigveda 1.116.10 Ye from old Chaivana, Onasatya stripped as 'twere male. The skin upon his body lengthened his life when all had left him helpless, thus Ras, and made him lord of youthful maidens. Ralph D.H. Griffith. This verse is about rejuvenating old rishi named Chaivana and marrying him to a youthful maidens. Now, let's look at Arya Samaj translations. Rigveda 1.116.10 O truthful President of Rajya Sabha, Council of Ministers and Dharma Sabha Religious Assembly, as the remove an armor from the renegade. Keep a distributor of wealth or charitable person from all misery. Make arrangements for the education of the brahmacharinis who are full of splendor from absolute truthful age and experience for the marriage with suitable husbands, one for one. O givers of new life like the Vaidyas or physicians who are destroyers of all diseases, augment the lifespan of a man of renunciation by providing him with all necessities. Acharya Dharmadeva Vidya Marthanda. The English translation is actually a retranslation of Swami Dayanand's Hindi Bhashya. The verse actually says that an old rishi named Chaivana was rejuvenated by Aswins. The entire hymn 116 is dedicated to the glory of Aswins. Now, compare both Griffith's and Swami Dayanand's translation. Both are so different. Dear viewers of Gnani's World, you might think that we are deliberately posting different verses, but believers, these two verses are actually the same Rigveda 1.116.10. So how do we verify which one is true? Do not worry, let us make it easier for you. Panchavimsha Brahmana 14.6.10 Chaivana, the son of Dadyang, was beloved by Aswins. As he became of old age, by means of this, Vinga Seman shook Vinkayati, him in the water and made him young again. This they had wished at that time. A wish granting Seman is the Vinka. By means of this, he gets the fulfillment of his wish. Mahabharata also mentions Chaivana being rejuvenated, so does Nirukta 4.19, but Nirukta makes a reference to Rigveda 10.39.4. Now let's read another verse. Rigveda 1.116.12 O leaders, teachers and preachers, pursuing a good and wise policy, having acquired knowledge from you, I whom the Son of Man of non-violence nature and who approaches the upholders of Dharma, righteousness and Vidya, wisdom, reveals for the enjoyment of happiness, as the lightning manifests or produces rain, your sublime and mighty deed. You should manifest or bring before the public that great scholar who taught you and me the sweet knowledge of Shastras, with the noble action like that of Acharya who pervades, is expert in all sciences. Acharya Dharmadeva Vidya Marthanda. Griffith translated it as Rigveda 1.116.12. The mighty deed of yours for gain, O heroes, as thunder heralded the rain, I publish when the horse's head, Atharvan's offspring Dadyang, made known to Soma's sweetness. Tr. Ralph D.H. Griffith. Again, there is a difference in translation. The story is like Ashwin's wanted to learn Madhu doctrine by Dadyang, was afraid because Indra told him that he would be headed Dadyangs if he imparts this knowledge to others. So Ashwin's made a deal with Dadyang and replaced his original head with horse's head and mentioned in Griffith's translation. Satapatha Brahmana 14.1.1 20 to 25. Now this was heard by Ashwins. Verily, Dadyang Atharvana notes this pure essence, the sacrifice. Half this head of sacrifice is put on again. Half this sacrifice become complete. They went up to him and said, We too will become thy pupils. What are ye wishing to learn? He asked, This pure essence, this sacrifice, half this head of the sacrifice is put on again. Half this sacrifice become complete. They replied, He said, I was spoken to by Indra, saying, If thou teachest this to anyone else, I shall cut off thy head. Therefore I am afraid lest he should indeed cut off my head. I cannot take you as my pupils. They said, We too shall protect thee from him. How will you protect me? He replied. They said, When thou wilt have received us as thy pupil, we shall cut off thy head and put it aside elsewhere. Then we shall fetch a head of a horse and put it on thee. Therefore thou wilt teach us. And when thou wilt have taught us, then Indra will cut off the head of thine, and we shall fetch thine own head and put it on it thee again. So be it, he replied. He then received them as his pupils, and when he had received them, they cut off his head and put it aside elsewhere. And having fetched the head of a horse, they put it on him, he taught them. And when he had taught them, Indra cut off that head of his, and having fetched his own head, they put it on him again. Therefore it is concerning this that the Rishi hath said, Rig Veda 1:116-12. The Dadyang Atharvana with a horse's head anywise spoke forth unto you to the sweet doctrine. Unrestrainedly he spoke this, is what is thereby meant. This story is also mentioned in several other scriptures and also explained by Adi Shankaracharya in his commentary of Brahma Sutra. Arya Samaj translation does not just contradict with Brahmanas but with Nirukta too. Rig Veda 3.33.5. O man, as the rivers full of waters go towards the sea and become firmly established there, in the same way be pleased with my solacing words leading to joy. I am like the son of a learned person who has attained the nectar of all true wisdom and knowledge and admire your great wisdom and longing for it. T.R. Acharya Dharmadeva Vidyamarthanda. Rig Veda 3.33.5. Linger a little at my friendly bidding rest, holy ones, a moment in your journey. With him sublime soliciting your favors, Kusika's son hath called unto the river. T.R. Ralph T.H. Griffith. Nirukta 2.24. This year Viswamitra was the domestic priest of Sudas, the son of Prijwana. Viswamitra, friend of all. He, that is, Viswamitra, implored the rivers to become fordable. He addressed them in the dual as well as in the plural number. Viswamitra commanded the rivers to stop flowing. Reading previous and next verses would help understand this. Even another Arya Samaji scholar has translated it correctly, but it contradicts with Dayanand's translation, which is completely different. Rigveda 3.33.5. The sage speaks, I, the disciple of an enlightened teacher, having acquired necessary knowledge, now desirous of protection, solicit your favor and address with earnest prayers to you the rivers before me. O rivers, charged with water, rest a moment from your course at my request. T.R. Satya Prakash Saraswati. Rigveda 7.33.11. Vasistha, sage and scholar, living soul, you are a child of sun and moon, born of a heart of Mother Nature, nurtured by Mother Knowledge. Like a drop of distilled soma, all divine powers of world nourish you in the lotus cradle or celestial well of food for vitality and light of knowledge. T.R. Tulsi Ram. Dayanand translated Rigveda only up to 6th mandal as he was poisoned before he could translate other mandalas. But I have mentioned another Arya Samaj scholar, Dr. Tulsi Ram's English translation, followed Griffith
by
translated it as
Arisharan
Rigveda
Siddhanta
7.33.11. Born of their love for Urvasi, Vasistha, thou, priest, art son of Varuna and Mitra. And as a fallen drop in heavenly fervour, all the gods laid thee on the lotus blossom. T.R. Ralph T.H. Griffith. Yaska in Nirukta explains it as Nirukta 5.13 and 14. Urvasi is the name of a Nayad, so called because she pervades wide regions. Uru plus us, to pervade. Or she pervades by means of thighs, sexual intercourse. On seeing her, the seminal fluid of Mitra and Varuna fell down. O Vasistha, thou art certainly the son of Mitra and Varuna. Brahman, O Brahman, thou wert born from the mind of Urvasi. Thou art the drop that felling divine fervour. See how they are trying to hide the obscenity. Let's move on to another verse. Yajurveda 19.71. O commander of the army, just as the sun wrenches off the head of the cloud of water but unwillingly to release it, so do thou advance thy armies and subdue all contending hosts. T.R. Devi Chand. English translation by Devi Chand is also
And I
a
have also
retranslation
mentioned the
of Swami
Hindi
Dayanand
translation by
Hindi
Dayanand.
Bhashya. Griffith translated it as Yajurveda 19.71. Indra, with water form didst thou drench off the head of Namuchi, subduing all contending hosts. T.R. Ralph T.H. Griffith. Again, these two translations are completely different. The verse is translated by Griffith says how Indra beheaded Namuchi, which is expounded in Brahmanas and Puranas. Panchavimsha Brahmana 12.6, 8 and 9. Indra and the Asuric Namuchi made an agreement. Of us two, not one shall kill the other, either by night or by day, either with what is wet or what is dry. Indra cut off his head at dawn before sunrise with form of water. What is at dawn before sunrise is neither by night or by day, and form of water is neither wet or dry. This had a greater evil than the unslain himself had been rolled after him, calling, Manslayer, thou hast cheated, thou hast cheated. Neither by verse nor by chant could repel it, this head, but by means of the finale of the Harivarna Seman, he repelled it. This is also mentioned in Mahabharata 9.43. But the contradiction between Arya Samaj translation and Panchavimsha Brahmana is not a major issue here. The major issue here is that the following Rig Veda verse is repeated in the Yajurveda, and both the Rig Veda and Yajurveda verses translated by Arya Samaj is contradicts with each other. I have mentioned the Sanskrit text for you to read and compare. Rig Veda 8.14.13. When you fight out the adversaries of life and humanity, you crush the head of the demon of drought and famine with the sea mist and the cloud. Tulsi Ram. Yajurveda 19.71. Indra, ruler, commander, like the foam of the sea, like the vapor of the water in the sky, rise and expand and break the head of the powers which hoard the wealth of the land like the cloud hoarding the waters. Conquer the forces which stand in opposition out of sheer jealousy. Tulsi Ram. Both these verses are translated by the same Arya Samaj scholar even though it contradicts with each other. Now compare it with Griffith's translation. Yajurveda 1971. Indra, with water form didst thou wrench off the hair of Namuchi, subduing all contending hosts. Ralph T.H. Griffith. Rig Veda 8.14.13. With waters form thou torest of Indra, the head of Namuchi, subduing all contended hosts. T.R. Ralph T.H. Griffith. So, dear viewers of Gnani's World, now you tell us what is more trustworthy. Same Sanskrit verse from Yajur and Rig are translated differently. This serves two things. You can translate Sanskrit verse as you like. There is no rule for translating Vedas, or else Arya Samaj scholars have no masters of Sanskrit language. There's more to see of their honesty. Following translations are all by Arya Samaj scholars. Rig Veda 1.61.7. He alone deserves to be the commander of an army who appoints deserving persons on all posts and prevailing in, or being well versed in all sciences and possessing wealth, quickly quaffs the soma and well cooked good food, who destroys his enemy as the sun pierces the vast cloud mountain like with his rays, making it to fall down, being endowed with the power of endurance and hurling the thunderbolt or powerful weapon. T.R. Acharya Dharmadeva Vidyamarthanda. Rig Veda 1.61.7. In the yajnic programs of this Indra, lord of rule and power who measures everything to size, Vishnu, the great sun pervading everything with its light, drinks up the delicious holy foods prepared and sent up sanctified from the yajna, and then challenging the mountainous cloud holding up the wealth of same yajnic foods in the form of vapors, breaks up the cloud and throws it down, releasing the showers of rain. T.R. Tulsi Ram. The same verse is also repeated in Atharva Veda, which Arya Samaji Vaidyanath Shastri translated as Atharva Veda 20.35.7. Only under this creating powers of God's operations, the sun always drinking great powerful drink of herbs and the nice corns and stealing the substances under process of ripening, become powerful and hurling the thunderbolt piercing through the Vara, cloud whose feeder is water. T. Acharya Vaidyanath Shastri. Now let's read Yajurveda 19.88, translation all by Arya Samajis. Yajurveda 19.88. Just as a wife, the recipient of semen, at the time of cohabitation keeps her head opposite to the head of the husband and her face opposite to that of his, so should both husband and wife perform together their domestic duties. A husband is a protector like a physician. He lives happily like a child and with tranquility produces progeny with penis keen with ardor. Devi Chand. Tulsi Ram translate it as Yajurveda 19.88. Saraswati and the Ashwinis, enlightened women and the health and spirit of the man, creates a happy home with the head and mouth of both together in truth with the sweet tongue fluent in purity. The purity, comfort and security of the home, the love and the desire of the women's fertility, the passion and the power of the man's virility, and the child as bloom of the health and love of the union. All these keep the family together. T.R. Tulsi Ram. Both gives us so different meanings, all this in an attempt to cover the obscenity of this verse. Now see how Dayanand contradicted. Yajurveda 33.13. O learned teacher, as thou payest attention to the weighty words of the brahmacharis, so we, along with the men, resplendent like the sun, accept the deserving of highest reverence. The best man, with the strength and wealth, please thee, godly in nature, powerful in the sun, and the bounteous like the air. T.R. Devi Chand. Rig Veda 6.4.7. O enlightened person, purify like the fire. As you listen to our great request, we accept the vast ghee as the giver of delight by the purification of food and other means. O the best leaders, as God gladdens the whole world, so you make prana and other happy with your strength and wealth. We accept you like electricity. T.R. Acharya Dharmadeva Vidyamarthanda. Both these are retranslations of Dayanand's Hindi Bhashya to English. Yaska explains Yajurveda 33.13 and Rig Veda 6.4.7 as Nirukta 1.17. Like Indra, like Vayu, the gods fill thee with strength. Here is the characteristic mark of Indra and Vayu in a stanza addressed to Agni. Now you see, Swami Dayanand didn't just contradict his own translation but also Nirukta. This means that you can translate Vedic verses as per your convenience. As you can see, there is not even a difference of one Sanskrit word despite this Dayanand translated it differently. Now let us look at the English translation of Dayanand's Hindi Bhashya. Rigveda 1.127.1. O girl, as I regard my husband, the person who is well performer of the yagna with lofty knowledge and reverential devotion, who shines like the fire with the splendor of the ghee, clarified butter put in the fire, who is munificent or liberal donor, acceptor of what is given with love and reverence, who knows all that exists like the sage, who is endowed with wisdom, who is the son of a strong man, observer of brahmacharya, so thou shouldn't also accept or choose such a virtuous person as thy husband. T.R. Acharya Dharmadeva Vidya Marthanda. Yajurveda 15.47. He who with his superior knowledge deserves harmlessness is to be fit honored by the learned, is powerful in deeds, is imbued with noble qualities, and displays diverse kinds of luster with extreme loveliness by performing heaven. Using ghee and water, him do I honor. He is the giver of happiness, the knower of all created objects, charitably disposed like the son of a great man, giver of gifts, foremost amongst the wise, and the trustworthy, highly learned person, brilliant like a fire. Devi Chand. Both above verses are retranslation of Dayanand's Hindi Bhasha into English. Griffith translated it as Yajurveda 15.47. Agni I hold as herald, the munificent, the gracious son of strength who knoweth all that live. As holy singer knowing all, Lord of fair rites, a god with form erected turning to the gods. He, when the flame hath sprung forth from the sacred oil, the offered fatness longeth for us with his glory. Ralph T.H. Griffith. Rigveda 1.127.1. Agni I hold as herald, the munificent, the gracious, son of strength, who knoweth all that live. As holy singer knowing all, Lord of fair rites, a god with form erected turning to the gods. He, when the flames hath sprung forth from the holy oil, the offered fatness longeth for it with his glow. Ralph T.H. Griffith. Yaska explains it as Nirukta 6.8. The gods with favor turn towards the gods whose favor is directed towards the gods. Now let's read Rigveda 1.26.4 translations, all by Arya Samajis. Rigveda 1.26.4. May Varuna, Lord of knowledge, Mitra, universal friend, and Aryama, Lord of justice, all destroyers of sin, enemies and the disease, grace the seeds of our yagna with their blissful divine presence, as may the sagely scholar, our friends and our dispenser of justice, all fighters against sin, enmity and negativity, come and take their seats on Vedi, sanctify and accomplish our yagna. Translator Tulsi Ram. Rigveda 1.26.4. O Venerable God, destroyer of evil forces, pleasant lawgiver, may you live in our inner self, even as your grace are the external human endeavors. T.R. Swami Satyaprakash Saraswati. Rigveda 1.26.4. O men, sit down on your various seats which are pleasant as cultured men who are destroyers of internal and external foes or diseases, well versed in various science, friendly to all the dispensers of justice do in assemblies, so you should also do. T.R. Acharya Dharmadeva Vidya Marthanda. Not just the English translations, but even the Hindi translations of Arya Samajis are quite different with little similarity. Now take a look at another verse. Rigveda 1.164.13. Upon this five-spoked wheel revolving ever all living creatures rest and are dependent. Its axle heavy laden is not heated. The knife from the ancient time remains unbroken. Yaska explains it as Nirukta 4.27. When the five-spoked wheel began to roll, this is with reference to the 5 seasons. There is a Brahmana passage. There are 5 seasons in the year, taking the winter and the dewy season together. But Arya Samajis has translated 5 spokes as 5 elements. Rigveda 1.164.13. All space planets and Panchabhutas abide in this five-spoked. The five spokes are the five elements, revolving wheel of time. Its heavily loaded axle is never heated. The time is heavily laden, so to speak, and has God as support axle, and it has no wear and tear. T.R. Acharya Dharmadeva Marthanda. Rigveda 1.164.13. Five other spokes in the wheel of time come Prakriti, the temporal existence of physical world. There are five elements of Prakriti: Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa and Prithvi, and their internal changes. Tulsi Ram. Not just that, some Hindus, Arya Samajis on internet distort Vedas so much that they are even including words like electricity, cosmic, plasma, etc. You can Google the following verse for source: Rigveda 1.119.10. With the help of bipolar forces or winds, you should employ telegraphic apparatus made of good conductor of electricity. It is necessary for efficient military operations but should be used with caution. Hindus are translating verses like that. In the future, they may even include Apple iPhone and Higgs-boson's theory in the latest translation of the Vedas. Arya Samaj's new translation is not actually a new translation, but in reality, it's a completely new Vedas. Arya Samajis shouldn't be writing translated by on cover of the translation, but they should be writing written by, as every translation of theirs is different than those translated by other scholars. May God always guide us to the truth and keep us firm on it. Dear viewers, people like Kamakshi Dhanraj may come and go, but what matters is the truth, the absolute truth. Think for a while, everything is in black and white, you decide what to choose. So, viewers, stay tuned for the episode 5 of season 1 to do analysis of lost 999 suktas. Still no textual corruption in Vedas? Kindly do subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for more updates. And also request to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest and Reddit. Thank you.